Hey everyone, it is YouTube live time. Remember, we're trying this for the second week. So welcome. Today I am talking about Amazon Seller-Fulfilled Prime, how to get started, what is it, pros and cons. I am very excited about that. Because this has been a topic people have been talking about. Some people may not know about it, so I'm going to discuss what it is in just a second. But some people probably already do, have already tried it, is considering it. Maybe you have a lot of questions. I have been doing Amazon Self-Fulfilled Prime for almost a year now. I started it last year in October when I got invited to do it by Amazon. And I have a lot to say and a lot to go over. First of all, let me just start out by saying I think it's a fantastic thing, but it's not for everyone, and that's why I want you to pay attention, okay? So I just want to make sure that everything's working properly. So go ahead and say something in the comment section, say hi, all that stuff, so I know everything's working properly, and then we will get started. I sent out an email this morning, and I posted in the Facebook group a link, so hopefully everything's working as it should, okay? Now, something a little bit different this time. Last time, the way I set it up, it was literally no lag time. But the way I set it up this time, there will be a small lag, okay? That doesn't matter for you, but by the time you hear me say a certain point, it may actually be like 10 seconds later, okay? That's not a big deal, but just letting you know, okay? Good morning. I don't know how many people are on this call right now. I believe this little stat here that says concurrent viewers. I don't know if you guys can see on your side. Can you guys see on your side how many people are viewing? Oh yeah, I think that's what it is. 11 so far. So people are joining on in. So welcome. And this has been a topic that I should have talked about a long time ago, but I only do these lives once a week, and there's always something to talk about. Either Etsy's up to the shenanigans or something's happening, I need to discuss it, especially for a certain time of year. But I'm finally going to be discussing this topic. Now, Amazon Self-Fulfilled Prime is a little different than regular Prime. Prime, as you know it, imagine you're a customer of Amazon. Many of us are. And many of us also are Prime members, meaning if we buy something with Prime, we get free shipping, right? And so what simply happens on the seller side is that you get all your inventory, right? And you send it to this warehouse. And then Amazon fulfills your order for you when you get it. Literally, when the order comes to you, do nothing, which is kind of exciting. All you have to do is keep up with the inventory, and you have to make sure that you're fully stocked, unless you just don't want to be fully stocked, right? Now, Seller Fulfilled Prime is different. You fulfill it. You fulfill it as opposed to Amazon, okay? And there's pros and cons to it. I'm going to go over that. While it may sound like a really good idea or maybe a really bad idea, depending on how you look at it, I'll describe who's the best candidate for this type of thing. I mean, you probably could guess already, who it's really best for. But I'll go over it. And then if you are like, yeah, I really like the idea of Self-Fulfilled Prime, I'll talk to you more about it in detail, how to get started, pros and cons. And then the biggest question or questions regarding shipping on time, delivering on time, which I'm really excited to talk about because that is usually what makes people very hesitant to join Self-Fulfilled Prime, because they're just so worried. They're worried that if you don't get something into them in 2 business days, Amazon police will come get them, which is true, but we'll discuss that. Okay, good morning. You got the email. Hi Pam. Hi. I got the email too, but the link went to last week's video. That's problematic. I was waiting on another page. Oops, what happened there? Should I resend the email? Let's see here, guys. I'm sorry about that. That makes no sense. How did that happen? Oh, I'm so silly. Why did I whisper that? Okay. No, I knew I updated it, but maybe the link didn't update. Let me resend the email for people. I'm obviously a silly person. Okay, so while I get that done, welcome everyone, and I'm just gonna grab this link to send it to the people waiting. I'm so silly. How did that happen? Well, this is the purpose of testing it out, right? So let's see.
Hey
Yeah, and it went to
everyone,
last week's
good
video. That's
morning.
weird because it's from what I understand, the correct link. Let me try that link again. Give me 1 second, guys. How do I get a link to this YouTube stream? Let's see. I was playing around with it last week after we finished the live, so I'm a little bit better at it. But how did I mess up on that link? I apologize, guys. Give me a second. Let me just update the link. There it is. How that happened, I have no idea. TC. Yeah, it's the right link, unless the hyperlink inside of it didn't work right. Oh, that's why. Oops. I didn't change the hyperlink. Okay. Um, okay, guys. I learned. I should have known that because of email, general email list. Okay, let me just send this out. Let me do it immediately. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, let's get started. Or let's continue, right? So it brought me to last week's webinar. Okay, I think I had more than one page open for a live. I could see two. I was watching last week's. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was wondering, I'm like, wait a minute. I sent out an email and not many people were waiting. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm learning. Okay, let's get started. Okay, guys? So I already have this organized. Let me look at my notes so I don't miss anything I want to discuss. All right? I started Self Fulfilled Prime back in October 2018 when I got invited by the Amazon team. And I have some thoughts about it that I want to discuss with you. So let me just reiterate, when you are a regular Prime seller, not Seller Fulfilled, meaning if you're FBA, which is fulfillment by Amazon, you take your products, you ship it to this, several warehouses of, that belongs to Amazon, and they fulfill your order. Okay? What comes with that is a few different things. Higher fees, and those fees would vary. I can't tell you what exactly the fees are because they will vary depending on one, you'll get a higher fee period for using FBA. Instead of 15%, you'll get a little bit higher. And on top of that, you may pay regular fees because your items are larger, are heavier, because obviously they're storing your stuff. And if it's not, then that's great, but just FYI. And also how long your inventory actually stays in the warehouse, okay? Because they're pretty much storing it for you. So that's regular Prime, okay? Let's see here. All right. So let me just pull out this. All right, my notes. Now, self-fulfilled Prime is you fulfilled the order. So you get the Prime badge, which is really cool, in terms of customers seeing it. But what they don't know, the customers, is not coming from a warehouse. I'm not sure if they even know where it's coming from in general, where Prime comes from. But in this case, it's not coming from a warehouse. It's actually coming from the seller, okay? And so what's really exciting about that is it's really good for certain types of sellers. Who are they? People who sell personalized or customized items. That's me. I don't know who else out there does that, but I know quite a bit of us do, because we can't pre-personalize or pre-customize items. Send it to the warehouse, okay? That doesn't make sense. So it's really beneficial people who do sell personalized items. Next, people who sell large or heavy items. So people who sell very large or heavy items that want the Prime badge, want the benefits of having the Prime badge, it may be difficult for them it might be, costly for them to use FBA, okay, the regular Prime. And so very understandably so that they don't want to do it. Okay, so self-fulfilled Prime may be a better option. And last but not least, this is a big one with several of my members who I've coached. You guys know who you are. if you don't have the funds or the money to invest in inventory to stock the Amazon warehouses, or you're not quite sure how something's going to work out, right? Because you're like, damn, I want the Prime badge, or like you've been selling on Amazon, you've been doing decently, and you're like, I think the Prime badge might help my sales, but you're worried about sending a huge shipment to the warehouses and they're just sitting there. And it's not because they're sitting there and they're going to charge you for storing your stuff, because you may have very small, light items, but it's mostly because you just spent a whole bunch of money to prepare that inventory, and time. Time is important. And so you're like, I don't want to take that risk yet because I'm not really quite sure how it's going to go. Okay. So you could test the market by doing self-fulfilled Prime. You could have the Prime badge and you could make the products as you go, as you get orders. Of course, especially if you make products fairly quickly. Okay. Now, those three reasons are really great for people who want the Prime badge but don't quite want to do FBA. Okay, so tell me down below in the comments, which one are you? If you are, if you're not, then you're like, I'm neither. You could probably still do self-fulfilled Prime, but more often than not, you probably be best fit for FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon. But let me know down below. Do you have personalized or customized items? Do you have large/heavy items? Or are you just scared to put your stuff in the Prime category and sending it to a warehouse and spending all that money to prepare inventory? You're not quite sure how it's going to go. Okay. Or you just don't have the money to do so. Let me know down below in the comments. Okay. So while you guys let me know down below, I'm going to talk to you about how self-fulfilled Prime works. Okay. Like I mentioned, with traditional FBA, you don't need to prep your inventory, send it to the Amazon warehouse ahead of time. You can still probably prep it ahead of time if you want, but you don't need to. Okay. When an order comes in, an employee from the warehouse, of course, gets your item, fulfills the order. You never have to do a thing. They actually handle customer service for it. They handle everything. That's why you pay such high fees, okay? So while people are like, I don't want to pay those high fees, there are some benefits to not having to deal with the process of packaging, shipping, and worrying about if it gets to the customer on time and all that stuff, okay? But as I mentioned earlier, the business model is not for everyone, all right? With self-fulfilled Prime, you become the warehouse, okay? So you get the benefits of the Prime badge, but once an order comes in, you're responsible for packing it, shipping it, and getting to the customer in the promised time frame, 2 days. We'll talk more about the 2 days in a second, okay? So all that sounds good, right? Let me make sure I'm not missing any comments. Yeah, Stephanie, interesting, says, I want to start selling on Amazon, but she wants to go for FBA for sure. Certainly, right? Because like I said, there is sometimes, if you don't fit these categories, FBA will be a great fit for you. And Becca says she uses FBA. People who do use FBA or self-fulfilled Prime, hence the Prime badge, do see a boost in sales, okay? I don't do anything, but was thinking for Christmas, it may be a good idea. Does this interfere with handmade? Can you do both? We'll talk about that toward the end, okay? I have some thoughts about if you don't do FBA at all, self-fulfilled Prime, when are the best times to do it? But you pretty much hit the nail on the head, right? Okay, so let's continue. How else does it work? Shipping costs and other fees. Again, I highlighted it, but I'll talk about it again. If you choose self-fulfilled Prime, if you're like, yep, it feels like I'm going to try to do this, then you are paying the shipping cost, okay? When you send things to FBA, the warehouse, and an order comes in, Amazon takes care of that. They obviously get really great discounts for shipping that many items, but when you are self-fulfilled Prime, you take care of the shipping costs. Hence, I have self-fulfilled Prime for my stationery because they're personalized, okay? I actually take the shipping costs. I pay for it, okay? Now, just for the record, you're able to work in your shipping costs to your product. Okay, that's allowed. So that's that. But as for the fees, you pay the standard selling fee for self-fulfilled Prime. Hooray, right? But if you did FBA, like I mentioned before, the fee is larger. And of course, will depend on how large or heavy your items are. And also depend on how long it takes to sell your inventory. So again, these are pros and cons, okay? Consider that. So one more thing to consider is the type of shipping costs you will incur. So just remember, first of all, did you ever price out 2-day shipping? Okay, it's expensive. All right. So when you're considering self-fulfilled Prime, and you're like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but consider the cost of 2-day shipping. And if you think about what 2-day shipping costs, could you work that into your item without like people like, without the market noticing. If you're selling a $5 item and working 2 days shipping to the cost, people will notice. If you're selling a $300 item, and this is an exaggerated example, and you're working 2 days shipping to the cost, people may not notice, especially if it's in line with the market, okay? So it can be fairly expensive, especially if you sell lower price items, all right? It'll be hard to recover. There is a way around this, all right, which is a special template, I believe, at the moment only given to handmade sellers, which is called the small and light shipping template. I have that, by the way, which we'll go over in a second, okay? Now, like I mentioned, you get an order, you have to ship on time and deliver on time. So there's a lot of pressure. When you have FBA, there's no pressure. They're handling everything. And even if they're late, right? Or it's not even their fault that they have it delivered late. It's, the post office fault, but they take care of everything, okay? But you have a lot of pressure on you. So the responsibility of shipping these orders yourself, which may not be a big deal because you already ship every day anyway, potentially, but you have the added responsibility of making sure that these are priority to take care of. So what happens is when you get the order, you will see that it's a Prime order because you know which items you set for Prime, and you'll see the word expedited as opposed to standard. That means that's a Prime customer and they chose to have it quickly arriving to them, okay? So you must print the label by 2 p.m. your time, all right? And so it will show expedited. It'll print it by 2 p.m. After you move past that and you get used to keeping an eye on these orders that are high priority, all right? Then you need to make sure the package actually gets delivered to them in time, 2 business days. So, you have to consider the right type of shipping label, the right type of shipping service, and of course, it could be very pricey. However, I have some exciting news, all right? You might say, Dahlia, 2 days is why I cannot hack it. I already make handmade items, or even if you don't make handmade items, it can be very stressful to ship something in 2 days, get someone in 2 days. Yes, U.S. priority mail is 2 to 3 days, so you probably promise people 2 days within your local area. It's messy, and you don't want to mess with Amazon because they could mess you up, all right? The Amazon police will come get you if you don't treat their customers right. So what do? Well, there is something called the small and light shipping template, okay? So instead of having something arrive to people 2 days with the Prime badge, you still get the Prime badge and you have something arrive 3 to 4 days. You might say, that's not Prime. Well, it is. And what happens is, if you were to buy my item on Amazon and you go to ship it and you'll go to checkout, you'll see that the selected shipping dates will be 3 to 4 days later, depending on where you live in the US, okay? So that's what's really exciting. And here's the thing, there's 2 ways to look at this. One, if you need some extra time for your handmade item, okay, then you could have to print the label the same day by 2 p.m., but you could ship the next day and do 2-day priority mail, which is still costly. Or if you're able to put things in a quick turnaround time, such as myself, when I get an order today that's Prime, I could print and ship today and still use USPS priority mail 2 to 3 day, because if I use that and I ship the same day, it will get there in 3 to 4 days. I've been very successful with this, by the way. So again, let me say this for the people in the back, all right? I found this to be a very successful method for using the 3 to 4 day shipping template. You have to apply for it and Amazon gives it to you. When you have something you could print or you could create and ship the same day and use 2 to 3 day U.S. priority mail service, because it's affordable compared to 2-day, right, express, and you get something to the person's place delivered on time 3 to 4 days in total, okay? And so it's a really cool loophole that Amazon allows us for handmade sellers. They do it because if you need some extra time for your handmade items, but if you need extra time, say an extra day, you would still need to pay for 2-day shipping because now you wasted a day, okay? Let me sip on my drink here. Pam says, FBA, I don't want the stress of self-fulfilled Prime. Yeah, absolutely. For some certain situations, you don't need it. Absolutely. Karen says personalized items and not huge inventory. So self-fulfilled Prime would be better. Good point. Yep, you fit it. And you don't have to, obviously, like Kara doesn't have to. You don't have to. But this YouTube Live is about, hey, should you consider it? And we'll talk about the benefits, which is obviously increase in sales, but we'll talk about it in a minute. I don't do anything but thinking. Oh, I read that. Okay. So totally want to get your Amazon webinar. I highly recommend it. It's awesome. Okay. I'm not just saying that because I am the Amazon webinar creator, but it's helped many people. And I'm always updating these webinars, particularly Etsy SEO webinar and Amazon webinar get the most updates often because of the type of platforms they are. But anyway, so Miss Avery says the 2 days is what's holding you back. But I just mentioned, and of course I know this feed is a little lagged, but I just mentioned how you could do the 3 to 4 day. But it also depends, Miss Avery Ann, how long does it take to make your items? I do it, and I could get something to somebody's house in 3 to 4 days because of that small and light shipping template. Okay? We'll get to the other comments in just a moment. Okay, let me just go over some other points. So I mentioned the benefits of the applying for the small and light shipping template. Okay, it's really, in my opinion, a little less stress because I don't want to have something to somebody in 2 days, but I don't have to pay for the 2 day shipping. I pay for the 2 to 3 day shipping, which is from USPS, and my metrics are fantastic. Only once in a blue moon does something arrive late because things happen. There's things you can't control. But with 3 to 4 days, I'm chilling. All right, especially if you can ship the same day. All right. So just remember. Let's see here. I'm just looking at my notes here to make sure I cover everything for you guys. And of course, you guys could ask questions. Okay. So, how do you apply for Self-Fulfilled Prime? I'll give you guys a link to my blog post. I'll put it in the comments because there's links in there for Self-Fulfilled Prime application and the small and light template application. You have to first apply for Self-Fulfilled Prime. Just for the record, if you're sitting there saying, I'm still not quite sure, it doesn't matter. Apply. There's a wait list right now. And even if you applied and you got accepted, you don't have to turn it on. Okay? I'm sorry, I feel like I'm yelling at you, but I'm so passionate about this, okay? It took me long enough to tell you guys about this. I know many of you already know, but just about my opinion about it. So apply for it. If you're like, I'm considering it, I think there's some benefits to it for me, let's just apply, okay? But then after you apply and get accepted, you can apply for the small and light shipping template. By the way, after you apply, there's a 30-day trial. Here's something that's really important. You're literally on a trial, and you need to make sure that you ship on time and deliver on time. And it's about I think a certain percentage of the orders you have in general that if you don't ship on time and deliver on time, they will take away your Self-Fulfilled Prime status. However, in the 30-day trial, and I forget the metrics because it's been about a year ago, you have to pretty much have like not perfect metrics for everything shipping on time and delivering on time, but close to it. Okay, so pretty much when you're in that 30-day trial, get everything out. Okay. Next, if your metrics slip up after you get approved, you may, first of all, before you get approved, you may be denied. But after you get approved and you start to slip up, and there's a certain percentage you cannot fall below, they will take your Prime badge away from you. I never had it happen to me. I've seen it happen to other people. Just FYI, some members. And sometimes things are not in their control. Okay, there's a lot of things that can happen not in control, which we'll talk about in a second. But something for you to consider. I've always said, and I haven't said it in a while, but I'm going to say it now. If you make Amazon the priority, it'll make you the priority. And that really applies for everything that we sell online for. But Amazon more so because how their algorithm works. So consider that if you're going to do Self-Fulfilled Prime. If you take care of it, it will take care of you. I'm talking about sales, okay? So let's continue. A few other things you need to consider. I mentioned to you have to maintain your status or you may lose it forever. This is really important, especially if you really love your Prime badge status. And if you don't feel that you love it right now, wait till you see holiday season, okay? Somebody mentioned earlier that they might just do it for holiday season. And first of all, depending on what's going on with your business, I really highly recommend if you don't have personalized items and all that jazz, do FBA. It takes a weight off of your shoulders. And you see the money rolling in and you're not feeling anything. It's kind of awesome, okay? Now, here's something that I've experienced myself. This is very particular to some sellers. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, there you go. I see your comments. I'll get to it in a second, guys. I just want to go through these and we'll chat. The shipping rates may increase if the area you're shipping to is experiencing delays. Let me explain. Today, my husband's helping me print because my assistant's out. And he may experience one of the items having no options for USPS priority mail. It literally grays it out. And he's like, Dad, the only shipping available is $22. The reason why that happens is because the Amazon system connects with the USPS system. And the USPS system tells Amazon, yo, this package trying to ship to this area in Detroit right this moment, we're not making it on time, like we're a little bit delayed. So the only way to guarantee it's going to get to this by this promise date is getting the upgraded express mail. And unfortunately, it's like $22. And you only see that once in a while, just depending on certain factors, okay? And so you may run into those issues, all right? If you run into those issues, you want to know about how I deal with it, comment down below. I'll tell you about how I deal with that, all right? Without it costing me a fortune. So, like I mentioned earlier, who this is right for. But if your items are not personalized, not heavy or large, or you have enough funding, then it might be more efficient to go with FBA. If you're just scared to put in a whole bunch of inventory and you're like, I'm preparing a whole bunch, then don't put a whole bunch. When I encourage members to go to FBA, I tell them, maybe put 10. That might sound like a waste of time, but if you're scared, just try small. It's not a big deal, okay? Try small. Now, it is probably evident to you, but I'll say it. You may get a boost in search because of the Prime badge. People trust the Prime badge more. People only shop the Prime badge. So the boost in search really will help. But honestly, it just really correlates with the boost of sales, because even if you don't get a boost in search, people's trust factor goes up big time when it comes to Prime. And so seeing that may help increase your conversions. Will then, of course, help increase your position in search. Did my phone just make a funny noise? Yes, it did. Okay. So, here's really cool 2 things, just in case you're scared of it. You're always able to get accepted and then edit the amount of Prime orders you are able to handle in a day. So mine is set to a few hundred. I can handle quite a bit, okay? So that's neither here nor there for me. I don't get hundreds a day when it comes to Amazon sales, but we can handle quite a bit. And then you can also turn it off for a period of time. If you're like, I'm stressed, or whatever reason you want to turn off the Prime badge for a little bit, you can, okay? So just FYI, you could get accepted and then just turn it off temporarily, okay? Now, all of this is not an alternative to a horrible listing setup, meaning just because you get the Prime badge and all this stuff is working for you doesn't mean you should set up your listings horribly or not really care about setting up your listings. There's a lot of pieces to the pie to be successful on Amazon, and this is just one of them. It really helps. You don't have to be self-fulfilled Prime or have the Prime badge to be successful. Trust me. Okay, so don't be discouraged if you don't want to do it or it doesn't really work with you. But having even said that, it's not just SEO that makes you successful, but it's all these pieces. And there are definitely some pieces of the pie that are larger than others that really help you. And don't forget SEO, setting up, advertising, checking your business reports, all that stuff is obviously really important. So as somebody mentioned earlier, the Amazon webinar is really, really great for that. It walks you through everything step by step, okay? So anywho, we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Let me check on some comments. All right. So, Miss Avery Ann, I hope I kind of, addressed your concern about the 2 days. That's what usually people have a concern about. Okay. Hold on. Heather says it's what I applied for. I remember you mentioned that and I applied for it. Awesome. Stephanie says, how much do you sell on Etsy versus Amazon? Amazon is way more. Where's my calculator? About 4 times more, sometimes 5 or 6 times more, depending on the month. So quite a bit. Isn't priority mail on your items around $7 to $8? Yeah, I think it's my people ship for me now. I don't know the exact cost anymore. $6.95, $7.29, something like that. So yes, I work it into the cost. I'm referring to the USPS 2 to 3 day priority mail. It's cheaper than guaranteed 2-day express, okay? Or 2-day when it comes to FedEx or UPS, okay? I know, Phyllis. I'm so sorry. Phyllis was watching the wrong link. It's my bad. Really, I'm so sorry, guys. I do apologize. I will get my stuff together but next week. Like, I did something wrong, not with the way I set up YouTube Live, with my email broadcast I sent to you. Like, I just didn't change the link it was linking to. I'm so silly. So the handle with $22 shipping, let me explain what I do. It's not something that I recommend for everybody. I take the chance on it. I leave it to you, to what you want to do, and I'll tell you the pros and cons of what I do. So once in a while when the Amazon system's like, yo, we can't make this get delivered on time, which is ridiculous because you're like, what? I'm shipping it on time. Like, I literally got the order and I'm shipping it. Like, how's it not get there on time, right? So it gives me something like $22 shipping. So what we do is we buy the $22 shipping, okay, trick, and then we, after the shipping is complete, we go back into that order, refund that shipping label, and we tell Amazon, no, we're not using the shipping label because we're not, okay? So we throw out the shipping label. Then because of that, we're able to edit we're able to go back into that order, edit shipment, and buy a real label off of PayPal for that customer, which is 2 to 3 days, and update the tracking number, because you have to have valid tracking numbers for everything on Amazon, period. But don't try to screw Amazon with the valid tracking number, especially on Prime items, right? So we update the tracking, especially for the customer's convenience, right? And so that's how I go around paying $20. However, the con to that is that if USPS told Amazon in this area that you're trying to ship this package to, it may not make it on time, then it may not make it on time, guys, meaning you're risking that one of your items delivers late. Now, here's why I take the risk. One, because I sell quite a bit each day. And so when you look at the metrics and percentage-wise, even if that 1 or 2 in the month time frame doesn't deliver on time, I'm not going to even go below 99% in deliver on time rate. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm able to take that risk. Now, in some instances, I'm not. There was one time, I don't know what was happening in some part of the country, where like almost all my orders in one day were going $22. Yeah, I paid $22 for quite a bit of orders. I didn't know the hack by then, by the way, but because I still probably could have changed it, because I still have a lot of orders that I'm able to mess up with my metrics just a little bit. So that's a risk that you're willing to take if you want to. I'm just telling you what I'm doing for it. Once in a blue moon, it comes, okay? And by the way, just a little note, I'm able to set certain regions of the US to 3-day shipping and certain regions of the US to 4-day shipping, okay? And so I put the regions close to me 3 days, Texas, blah, blah, and around the country 4 days. And by the way, I've still noticed that things still get there pretty early, which is good. It's like brownie points with Amazon. If something delivers earlier than expected, trust. They measure that, okay? You literally get brownie points. It's not called brownie points. It's called something else if you run some reports. But anyway, love, FBA, game changer. My items still sell and get mailed for me even when I'm on vacation. Put my shop on vacation. Yes. My sister, don't even get me started with my sister and her business, but a lot of ups and downs, with her. But she has FBA right now for items because she no longer really wants to do what she does. And so she's like, I forgot even to have inventory. She's like, I'm making sales every day, and she sells bath and body stuff. And I'm like, damn straight, it's a great thing. So let's go back to somebody else's point when it comes to holiday. And so if you're like listening to this and you're like, it is a good fit for me, but I'm still a scaredy cat, right? Some of us are scaredy cats when it comes to certain things. We get it. Okay. And so here's what I would tell you. If you're able to not be a scaredy cat for a limited time, even for a limited amount of supply, inventory, I would recommend doing it for holiday season. When I say for holiday season, I mean prior to holiday season. Don't jump on the bandwagon on Black Friday. First of all, there's a cutoff date to sending FBA items in. But I also said there's also a wait list to join Self-Fulfilled Prime. Okay? So if you're like, I may consider it. You're not like married to anything if you just apply. Okay, so apply. I put the link in the blog post. The link to the blog post is in the comments, okay? So apply for it. And then you could finally decide. You have some time to decide before they actually accept you. If you've been accepted or you already have it, it also may be beneficial if you do have things that work for FBA versus self-fulfilled Prime, it may be beneficial in advance to do things FBA, and here's why. Your time is very valuable during holiday season. For most of us who are very, very busy, right? Myself, included. I can't do FBA because of my type of item. So this is out of the question for me, unless I create a product line that's not quite personalized. But if you do have items that could work for FBA, but you're just a scaredy cat, I definitely highly consider it during the holiday season. It frees up your time. And you might say, Dahlia, I could package things in a second. I could just go, package, ship. I know you think it's that simple, and it may be that simple. But I don't want you to overestimate the amount of orders coming in, the amount of stress, the amount of when you're looking through your orders on multiple platforms, potentially if you sell on Etsy, Amazon, whatever, it could add up to a lot and a lot of time. And a lot of things, psychologically, when you see all the orders come in, you're like, oh, right? And so I'd highly recommend it. But even so, you just don't have to deal with anything, worrying about things delivering on time, especially during the holiday season, right? Because some people will think that you ruin their Christmas life if it isn't delivered on time. Trust me, we've all seen people have that message, right? You ruined my Christmas, right? So there's a lot of pros to doing FBA, especially at certain times, if you're able to. Or at least self-fulfilled Prime during special times of the year, if you're able to. Especially if you're a scaredy cat, if you don't want to do it all year round. But I've been doing it for almost a year now, since October last year. I made another change to my my listings that really helped increase sales as well. So I can't for sure say 100% that the Prime badge was the reason why my sales increased. I will tell you that I'm sure it has to be a piece of it, the reason why. But it's not like new news that even for buyers like ourselves, we love seeing the Prime badge. It helps trust people more, helps with conversions, etc. It helps a lot of things, okay? And so I really hope this YouTube live kind of gave you some insight and took away some worry. And even if you have some worry, how do you get started with it when you can still be a chicken? And that's okay. I'm a chicken in a few different things. I'm not chicken when it comes to this type of stuff, but with other things I am. And what I do is I like to approach it slowly. It doesn't feel like, a very, scary move, And for you, I would say what's not such a scary move is taking a small amount of products and shipping it to the warehouse. Even if those products sell within 2 days. You're like, okay, I see how it's doing. Let me send another SKU in. It could be just slow, And it doesn't have to be as a scary move. And of course, if you're like, no, I can't do FBA because of my personalized items, then a not so scary move is just, turning on the Prime badge for certain items. When you do get self-fulfilled Prime, you don't have to apply it to your whole shop. Okay, you get a special shipping template, especially if you do a small and light shipping template as well. You could apply it to certain items. So you could be like, okay, let me apply it. And this is what I recommend, by the way, if you want to try things out. I would apply it to your most popular. And you might say, why? Because they're already being seen. So to see how it does. To see like how scary is it to ship on time, to deliver on time, like all that stuff. If you put the Prime badge on an item that never gets found, you'll never know how it's going to work, right? So when I do changes and tests, I do it in the most popular items. So anyway, I would highly recommend doing it on a few items and test it out. That's what I did when I first started. I was like, let me see this Prime situation, right? I put it on my most popular items. I did it like on 5 or 6. It was going great. I applied it to everything else. Okay? Awesome. Looking for a production partner, and we'll get into Amazon soon. It's encouraging to know you sell 4 times. Yeah, sometimes even 5 times. And not everybody's like this, by the way. I know there's many people that say, oh, I'm doing much better than on Etsy than Amazon. And that's great. But more than likely, and I'm not saying this for everybody, but more than likely, if you are not selling, if you're on Amazon and you're not selling as close to Etsy, because Etsy's doing better than for you, then there's something that you're not optimizing in Amazon. And not for everything, right? Because there are some items that just do better with the Etsy market. But because of the much larger buyer base on Amazon, more than likely you're just not optimizing right. Okay? And again, shameless plug, I do go over a lot of ways to optimize in my Amazon webinar. Particularly, well, obviously the SEO, that's a huge part. But don't get it twisted. SEO is not the only thing that help you become successful on Amazon. Granted, some people have just applied SEO and have become successful on Amazon. It's true. But it's not the only thing. There's many pieces to the pie. So don't assume that for example, you just want to go straight to the section of SEO in the Amazon webinar. I didn't just put in fluff in the Amazon webinar. Every piece of the Amazon webinar is on purpose. Trust me, okay? So make sure you check it out. Do you think Amazon gives priority placement in search for FBA versus SFP? That's a great question. FBA, obviously, fulfillment by Amazon versus self-fulfilled Prime. That's what she means. I don't know the answer to that. My educated guess is no, but I do not know the answer. I will tell you something, Kathy, though. I think, well, it doesn't really correlate. I don't think so. I think it gives them more priority for things that sell more. So for the algorithm, obviously in most algorithms on marketplaces, conversion rate and sales, is what gives you better priority placement. But I don't know. I don't fully know the answer to that question. My educated guess is no. Did I close this? Okay. Can you do both FBA and self-fulfilled Prime? For example, start with FBA since there's a wait list for self-fulfilled. Yes, you can, but you cannot. So yes. So you could be like, okay, I'm making these 2 items FBA. Then if you decide, oh, I got accepted self-fulfilled Prime, well, if you still have inventory, you could obviously ship them back and then make these 2 listings in self-fulfilled Prime. Or you could just create 2 new listings. But you could absolutely do them together. Meaning, you could have these 2 listings, FBA, and then, like, if you get accepted self-fulfilled Prime, you could be like, okay, 2 FBA items, continue to sell. I'm going to put you guys, these 5 guys, on self-fulfilled Prime because I just got accepted. Absolutely. You could also, if you want to get real, crazy, you could also have some items, if you get accepted to the small and light template, which is 3 to 4 day shipping, you could have some of them 3 to 4 day shipping. You could have some of them 2 days. You could have some of them FBA. I don't know why people would want that many, but obviously in your case, I could see why, because you're just waiting to get accepted. But I wonder, why would you go from FBA to self-fulfilled? Why would you do that change, right? If you already could get with FBA and it's working for you, then why would you want to do that? Because you guys have to consider, if you're just like, because of high percentages they take from me, well, consider how much you're saving in shipping and saving in time of packaging the item. Do the math. And worrying about things arriving in 2 days, right? If you give it to FBA. Deb, hey Deb, very timely video. I keep meaning to do FBA, but there hasn't been time to think. It's been quite right now, so it's a good time to move forward with it. Thanks for the nudge. I've been trying to give people the nudge for such a long time. Here's the thing for me. I can't particularly do FBA because of my type of products. I'm trying to get something done with FBA so I know this sounds silly, but I can at least say I'm doing FBA. I'm trying it. One thing that my webinar does not go over is the FBA process because I don't do FBA. It would just be weird for me to teach it when I don't do it. And so anyway, and that's neither here nor there. The webinar is full of other really great things. But I really want you guys to do it. And here's the thing, Deb and everybody else. Are we in July? Are we in July or August? I don't know. August, right? We're in August. It's about time at this moment-ish to get started on thinking about FBA. Not thinking, but starting the steps. Okay? Identify which products you want to send in. Identify how much you'll send in. And you could just do a test right now if you're like kind of a scaredy cat, like I mentioned. Do a test. Say, I'm going to do these 5 SKUs. I'm going to send it in. And picking the most popular ones are really the right thing to do because you know that they sell. Because then you can say, oh, in the 2 weeks prior to FBA, it sold 20. In the 2 weeks when I was FBA, it sold 75. Let's do the math. We know FBA worked, right? So then you could be like, all right, it's time to really turn it up. So I'm saying, yeah, this is a good time to get the nudge because if this is a good time to test it out if you're scared, and then you'll still have enough time to send in a whole bunch for holiday season, or it's still a really good time just to send in a whole bunch. Okay? So yeah. And again, guys, if you're sitting there and saying this is great, but you're just on Amazon not quite where you should be in general, many of you have my Amazon webinar. Revisit it. Don't just look at the SEO section. Look at the business report section, and what's the word? Troubleshoot some issues. I troubleshoot all the time. Even though my Amazon does fantastic for me, it's a reason why it keeps growing, because I'm always troubleshooting and fixing things. For example, the business report section helped me identify the listings, I'll say, that used to convert higher that no longer, or that used to get found more that no longer, that is not getting found or not getting purchased at all. All these type of things that help me optimize listings. Also the advertising section, okay? Most of my revenue from Amazon does come from SEO and search, okay? But I do advertising, and a decent amount goes into advertising, and a decent amount comes from advertising, okay? Yes, again, most of it does come from organic search. But that whole section, it's huge. Okay, it's broken down to steps. That's why don't get intimidated by the large section of the Amazon webinar. For advertising, it's just broken down. Okay, to be easier to understand. And there's a reason why I set it up in a very particular way. Okay, it's really to help benefit you and give you more control. If you're sitting here like, yeah, that sounds good, don't consider the Amazon webinar if you're not going to actually implement it. Don't consider if you're not going to do the work. Okay? And you might say, duh, but let me explain. We're always busy doing things. Okay? But what's your priority? Our priority is to make sales. We know that. But what's your priorities at the moment? Okay? And so if you're not making as much on Amazon, and you could be making more, then that's your priority. Shift things over and get the Amazon webinar, work on it. If you're like, no, Dad, I'm killing it on Amazon, then what other things are you working on? Work on those priorities, okay? But regardless, if you do get the Amazon webinar and you want to work on it, make sure you have, and you don't have to work on it immediately. You get access to it for life. But it's important to implement it fully. And as you implement pieces, you'll start to see things happening. But as you implement the whole entire webinar, you can't do it within a month because of so much, you know what I'm saying? It's really meant to help you from start to finish. Anyway, Nike says, Dahlia, are you concerned about sales tax from other states with Amazon? Does Amazon collect most of your sales tax for you with Self-Fulfilled Prime? Can you someday do the training on it? So from what I understand, and I could be wrong, okay, I could be wrong. So I collect sales tax obviously for Texas, and I pay it, the quarterly stuff. I pay it quarterly. But for the other states, from what I understand, I don't know the right phrase for it, but I don't collect it and pay it. Amazon does. From what I understand, because when I saw I could be wrong, somebody could correct me, but when I saw I do my bookkeeping and stuff, or my sales tax thing, and I see the amount that comes from Texas and the amount comes from everything else, the other amount does not get deposited to me. I don't get that amount. So I was under the impression that I don't pay for those. I don't go online and file for each of those states. I could be wrong. Somebody could tell me different. Because if I collected the money, I'll be happy to pay it, But according to my the Amazon's not sales report. I'm talking about the report that shows you all that stuff, the revenue, expenses, blah blah. I don't get that money based on my math that I did. Leah said, you mentioned doing something aside from adding Prime that boosted your Amazon sales. What was that? Great question. It was a quantity drop down. So let me explain. Obviously, you could change your quantity on Amazon, but on Handmade, you're able to do customizations, right? You could ask somebody, what's the name you want personalized? What's the ink color? Blah, blah. So one of those I put as a drop down menu for quantity. And so if you look at my stationery, you're able to choose the first drop down, which is quantity of note cards and envelopes. And it's set of 10, set of 20, set of 30, set of 40. And what happened was it was an encouragement to Amazon customers to pick a larger amount than just 10, because prior to that, they were... Yes. Prior to that, each listing was a set of 10, and they would need to change the small, that small quantity button. And I had a lot of questions from Amazon customers. How much is included in here? They didn't know how much was included when they tell me a review. Like, it's a lot of issue, but this has helped take care of those issues, as well as encourage people to be like, oh, let me just get a couple more because they see the pricing. They understood how to buy more. Now that sounds really silly and straightforward to buy more, but it really helped, particularly increase my average order value. My average order value doubled, at least. Melissa says, yes, that is what I see on the taxes too. Exactly what you said, Dahlia. Perfect. Because that's what I was seeing. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't look like I need to pay for these other states. I just pay for Texas quarterly. And that's it. And I don't know if everybody pays it quarterly. I feel like I'm under the impression that not everybody pays it quarterly. The sales tax, I could be wrong, but I believe it's because of the amount of money I make or collect in sales tax. I make a lot, but I don't pay like $10,000 every time I file for sales tax, okay? But still, I pay it quarterly. And honestly, I prefer it. It's not hard for me to do the calculation for sales tax, but it's okay. I'm fine with doing it quarterly. And I usually get an email reminder and things like that, but I always have it in my calendar. I have set notifications on my phone for these things that happen repeatedly, that are not too often, so I don't forget. Yeah, I'm going to do FBA and have been following your training on one computer and filling out the information into Amazon. I am loving a training. My understanding is Amazon does collect and pay the states that have market facilitated tax laws on the books. Yes, correct. And that's what I thought too. I just wanted to make sure I was right. But awesome. Yeah, and there are several states that still don't have those laws yet, and they are our responsibility if we meet their thresholds. I don't know what that is, Layla. Layla? Never said your name out loud. Layla. Okay, sorry. Or Leela, right? I don't know, sorry. But I don't know what those are, so apparently I don't know everything. Oh, Melissa pays quarterly too. Yeah, so, and that's it, guys. I just hope that this will give you the nudge. This will, has answered your questions. And again, the biggest ones, people are scared. They're like, second I get self-fulfilled Prime, I'm scared. First of all, you could turn it on certain listings. It's not all of a sudden your whole shop goes on Prime, and then all of a sudden orders start swarming in, and you're like, it doesn't happen that way. You get to turn on which listings you want for the Prime, for that shipping template. You know what I'm saying? So even after you get accepted, even if you haven't checked your email in days and you got accepted and you didn't know it, nothing happens. You have to turn it on, okay? And so you can be like, all right, let me turn it on. And again, what happens is you get the order. And by the way, sometimes I notice that, so I have to ship by 2 p.m., right? I have to print the label by 2 p.m. And so I notice that any order that really is pending after 1:30 never needs to ship that day. That's Prime. So does that make sense? So even if an order comes in 1:59, more than likely it's not supposed to be printed by 2. I found that. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong for your experience, but for mine, it's not wrong. This is what has been happening. Anything really past that 1:30 mark, I still have my assistant check up until 2. Just you never know when Amazon decides to surprise you, right? But we found that it doesn't have to happen. And so we've gotten used to, ever since we did that, checking our Amazon. Amazon's usually the priority when we print. Obviously, and we try to clean it out every single day. And so, and we regularly check it. If we go to the other platforms to print, Etsy.com, then at a certain point we have to go back to Amazon to double check to make sure we have enough time for things to print by 2. It's become a routine. And for those of you who are still scared, and I'm really speaking to those people who are still scared. For those of you who I inspired, go for it, right? But those of you who are still scared of it, you have to understand that with anything, over time, things don't seem as scary. You know, funny story, for those of you who are OG members, know the story, okay? Do you remember the time I told you when I first started learning how to drive? I was one of those people who, those people who are like 14-9 to drive or 16-9 to drive. I did not care to get my license or anything like that, okay? I waited a very long time. So one Saturday morning, my dad woke me up. He's like, yo, let's get your permit. I was like, no, right? I passed. I got it, whatever, right? And then when I took my driving test, I failed like 3 times or 2 times. I forgot. But when I first started driving, I remember I was driving to work. And I have to go up to go to the main highway. I have to turn on the highway. And I was talking to my mom on the phone. And I just moved to Texas not too long ago, and I started learning how to drive. And I said to her, okay, I literally, like, I couldn't listen to music when I was driving. Like, it was that serious. And then when I reached the red light to turn, I said to her, Mom, I have to go. I have to make a turn on the highway. Like, I couldn't talk and make sure I'm turning. It was crazy. The point is, thinking back then, I remember how I felt. And now, I mean, I'm a master driver. I mean, everybody says that, right? But I'm a really good driver. I'm a very defensive driver. I'm very aware of my surroundings, etc. Right? So anyway, I could tell you that things get easier over time, and managing the self-fulfilled prime process gets easier over time, especially if you have a good fit for your products. Everything gets easier over time. When you have a kid, I remember when we first had Juju, the little one, for those of you who know my kids, I remember, like, we had everything planned. Like, in the living room, we had a section for, like, diapers, wipes, like, everything. I remember we overplanned each and every night. And then eventually, like, after 1 week, it became habit because it was my second kid, but it just became, like, it was easy. It was easy. Not everybody has the same, experience, but things get easy after over time. So just know the scariness factor does go down. You know what I'm saying? And even if you mess up here and there with certain things, you always learn from it. Can your price be higher in self-fulfilled prime than the same item that is listed not prime? Correct. According to Amazon, and they sent me some literature on it that sounded fancy, but when they accepted me self-fulfilled prime, they sent me welcome type of email and a few links in it, and one of those included how you could price, and you're allowed to price higher to cover shipping costs. And they have a threshold, something about $15. I forget. I'm sorry, but so, or something about, I forget the price. Something under. I forget the price, but yes, you're able to increase your price to accommodate that. Now, FYI, this may help some of you out there before I end this call, or may not. But with me, I did not increase my prices by $7, $8 for the shipping. Hear me clearly, I did not. And so what I did was, remember how I had the drop-down menu? And so the first thing I did was, okay, I did increase my price, but if my price of set of 10 is $18, I decided on the first set, I'm going to decrease it a bit and meet halfway. So I decreased it a bit and then increased it a bit. So, like, instead of charging $7, I charged $3.50 for shipping. Okay? So, yes, that means if I'm paying for shipping, which I am, I'm not charging as much for the first set of stationery, because I found that most people were buying more than a set of 10. And then when they get to the second set, my shipping costs are covered and they've purchased more from me. It's a big win, and a lot of times they're buying more than 20. Mm-hmm. Okay, I found because of that drop-down menu, so I was able to work in the cost in that drop-down. And I also found that I'm one of the highest priced stationery sellers on Amazon. Who's messaging me? Oh. Make sure something to do with this Facebook Live. Okay, thank you to whoever messaged me. I'll read that in a little bit. I was still highest price, and I'm still selling fantastic. So that didn't affect my sales. I was worried about that. I was, because I'm like, wait a minute, what if it affects my sales being higher priced? I didn't increase by 7 or 8. I took a dip in the price a bit on the first set, but because I have that drop down menu, it encourages people to buy more, because there's reasonings behind mine. Like I said, if you're a much higher price point, you could probably add $7 and nobody would even notice. For me, I'm not quite higher price. My stationery is $18 for a set of 10, but it's more important to me because I have a lot of competitive sellers around me who sell stationery. You guys know who you are, because most of my competition on Amazon are my members who bought my webinar. I remember telling my assistant that, and she's like, "Wait a minute, you taught your members how to sell, sell with you in the search?" I'm like, "Listen, it's part of being Handmade Mastermind. Like, yeah, I'm also teaching stationery sellers." Anywho, so with the market, I don't want to be so overpriced compared to them. So I met halfway. Just a little interesting note, just for you to know. Okay, I'll check that later. I'm gonna put my phone on silent because. So. Oh, are you saying that you can start FBA with only 10 different items? You can start FBA with one item. I mean, right? You can start FBA with just one item. And the reason why I'm saying that, Karen, is if you're just scared of it, then it'll just be helpful, right? Because you're like, I don't want to risk sending all these items they don't sell or whatever. First of all, I would start FBA with the most popular items, especially if you're able to send it in FBA. They're not personalized, etc. Because you already know that they sell. They already have some sort of search presence, right? So the purpose of seeing FBA is to see if it sells more compared to non-prime badge. So, sorry, I'm congested. But if you're like, yeah, I sell average across the board, you could try it with one item, especially if you're like, I don't have much money to invest in inventory, you know? And then when it comes to holiday season, if you are definitely a perfect fit for FBA, I'd highly recommend it. Starting sooner than later so you could test it out if you want. But that's going to really turn way up. Many of my members who do FBA during holiday, especially if it's their first FBA holiday season, they run out. They run out. And they have to scurry around to make products quickly to send it in. And that's a great problem to have, but it's still a problem, right? So doing it earlier is better than later. Okay, guys? So I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you guys liked this Facebook Live. Hit the like button. I forgot to ask you guys. I'm still figuring out this whole YouTube thing, okay? So hit the like button. Please, it would be very helpful for me, for people to find this video on YouTube after I end the stream. And I'll be sharing it later on in the group and stuff like that. So hit the like button. I would really appreciate it, especially if you found this helpful. And then, of course, if you're not ready to subscribe to me, I'm sure somewhere around here there's a subscribe button. So hit the subscribe button and hit the notifications bell. When you hit the notifications bell, guys, I believe it should be it should give you the option to see everything from me, certain things from me, or nothing from me. I wouldn't know why you would subscribe if you want to see nothing from me. So I'd encourage you to see everything from me. I only post things that are really relevant to you guys and that are really, really helpful. And of course, you would want notifications when I go on live. Besides the fact that I email you guys the notification as well as post it in the group, it may be helpful for you guys to see the notification on your phone when I do go live. Okay? So subscribe. It will really help my channel. I would really appreciate it. Thanks, Sally. This was a super helpful live. You are welcome. I'm glad you loved it. I hope I encouraged even one person to go to FBA or Self-Fulfilled Prime. The purpose of this was Self-Fulfilled Prime, obviously, but either way, it's still in the same family. Okay. Let me give you guys a link again to the blog post. Okay, I just put it down below. So I pretty much wrapped up all the tips I said to you in here in that blog post. All right, so make sure you check it out. And that's all I got for you guys. I will catch you in the group, of course, throughout the week, and of course on YouTube Live again next Tuesday. All right? Bye, guys.